wanted to just start off this evening by thanking everybody who decided to come out here to innoMAYtion. innoMAYtion is DC government's opportunity to really think about the innovators, the creators, the people in Washington, D.C. that make D.C. what it is. In Washington, D.C., we like to think that we have no barriers. We want for everybody to be a part of what we're doing here in the District of Columbia. A lot of events like this are going to be happening over the month of May, which is why we call it innoMAYtion. And this is really just the kickoff for what is eventually going to be a host of things that provide a platform for innovators in the District of Columbia. I want to start off just by thanking some of the members of the Deputy Mayor's Office, Karima Woods, Joy James, and our entire DEMPET staff. If they could raise their hands, give them a hand clap, please. They do a phenomenal job. I see lots of our agency directors. I see Steve Taylor. I see Arthur Espinoza. All the agency directors in DC could raise their hands. Give them another round of applause, please. Polly Donaldson is somewhere around there. As I like to say, I have 3 jobs. I try to keep it very simple. I need to be focused on increasing affordable housing in the District of Columbia. I need to be focused on getting DC residents jobs. And I need to be focused specifically on making sure that we increase tax revenue in the District of Columbia. And what I'm really happy about with innoMAYtion is that it really hits 2 of those very hard in terms of jobs, because we know that both the tech sector, the creative sector provides a number of jobs for district residents, and that helps to drive tax revenue. and tax revenue is what helps us to do all the things in the District of Columbia that we want to do. The other great thing I think about innoMAYtion is that it helps with the diversification of what we want to do here. We recently released an economic development strategy where we talked about a number of factors that go into helping to diversify what we do in the District of Columbia. And I think that it's important that we do that because we know a few things about Washington, D.C. We know we are literally, for the 3rd year in a row, the best place in the United States for female entrepreneurs. Is that right? Femtech. We also know we are one of the best places for people of color in technology and innovation. How about that one? We are branding ourselves as literally the nation's capital for inclusive innovation. We are the place where people should be coming. If you are an underrepresented person in innovation, tech, creative economies, you should be thinking that Washington, D.C. is your home because we already have a competitive advantage in that way, and we have the support systems and ecosystems to make sure that that happens. As I mentioned before, this is the 3rd year in a row for innoMAYtion. We're doing a few things that are a little bit new this year. One is that we have events in all 8 wards this year for innoMAYtion. How about that? All over the city. For the month of May, we're going to be having innoMAYtion awards. In addition, we've actually branched out. Our brand is getting a little bit bigger, and so we have participation from Philadelphia this year, which is also going to be participating with us throughout the month of May. And in addition, we're going to be announcing throughout the month of May, one of the things we learned in our economic development strategy is that funding is a significant component about some of the challenges that entrepreneurs, that innovative people face. And so we're going to be having a number of announcements over the month of May about how the district is trying to make a mark and increase the funding opportunities for innovative companies in the District of Columbia. So please look forward to that. Exactly. I know very well that I can't do these kinds of events and these kinds of opportunities alone. There's a host of people in DC government that play a critical role in terms of that. One of them, who I'm going to be introducing, is the Deputy Mayor for Greater Economic Opportunity, Courtney Snowden, who is right to my left, who's going to tell you about all the fabulous things that she is doing.
I like that shirt. We're trends today. Hey, y'all. Now, y'all are going to listen to me when I talk, aren't you? All right, so we're going to hit you off. We'll talk a little bit about what we're doing. Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor Kenner, for both your work, for the great introduction, and the work that you and your team have done to pull innoMAYtion Month together. That's what I like to hear. That's right, because we got a lot of good news to share. We got a lot of good news to share. So I started off with my standard greeting, which is, hey, y'all, and I appreciate that. Now, a thing you need to know about me is I'm a call and response type speaker. So I ask a question, you respond. Does that make sense? Yes. All right, so this is going to be a ton of fun. So last year, we kicked off innoMAYtion Month with the creation of something called Project 500. Melissa Bradley's here somewhere. Where are you, Melissa? Give Melissa a big round of applause. Because Melissa and I embarked upon an important journey to help support 500 businesses in overlooked and underserved communities sustain themselves as prosperity comes right here to every single corner of the District of Columbia. Now, so far, we've got 340 businesses enrolled in that. 60% of those businesses are east of the river. 60% of them report, that's right, 60% of them are Ward 7 and 8. 40% that have enrolled have noted increased profitability by 15%. That's right. And Melissa, what does that mean? That means they're making more money and hiring more district residents, and that's how we put people on the pathway to the middle class. We also created an important program called the Aspire program, Aspire for Entrepreneurship. And that program, yeah, that deserves some applause because we've got some great partners in the room. Raise your hand if you're an Aspire partner. Aspire creates opportunities. We train district residents who are returning citizens to start their own businesses. Now, many of them went to jail for some business acumen that they had, and we're working to point it in the right direction. That's funny. You can laugh. It's okay. We're working to point that in the right direction, and we're excited about that because what we've seen is that this program has taken hold, and people are really, really excited about it, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. One of the things that we learned with working with our Project 500 friends and our aspirants is that access to capital, particularly to residents interested in opening businesses in overlooked and underserved communities, is an issue. And so the mayor worked incredibly hard to do 3 things in the budget this year, among others. 1, create capital opportunities for district residents, and she did that with a microloan fund that will make $500,000 available to district residents who live in and are interested in opening their own businesses in their neighborhood, so for resident entrepreneurs. 2, we put in some money to help ensure that resident-owned businesses can connect to the contracting and procurement opportunities that the city has so that our residents are actually making money off our government. That's pretty good, right? They'll get to hire more residents. But then we also did a bunch more stuff, and really what we have focused on is working incredibly hard to look all across government to make sure we're pointing our resources in the direction of supporting some of our most vulnerable residents, and importantly, identifying the right partners to get the work done and to support our residents. And so I have the sheer pleasure of introducing Mr. Gatton, my friend from the U.S. Conference of Mayors, who's going to make, I think, what is a pretty exciting announcement.
I don't know if I can follow that, but I will try. First of all, congratulations, innoMAYors. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure for the Conference of Mayors to be here to highlight the incredible program that you have called Aspire. We can clap that. Mayors from across the country and the Conference of Mayors are going to be watching, Deputy Mayor, how Aspire develops and grows and expands, how we help train and get returning residents back on a productive path and into the community is an issue that is really at the top of mayors' agenda all across the country. Whenever this topic comes up at a meeting, the mayors get on the edge of their seats, and we really can't make them quiet. They will talk all day about this. And they'll do that anyway. That's right. So one of the reasons we are here tonight is the Conference of Mayors is announcing an innovation grant. These are grants that we give out as part of our Dollar-Wise campaign for financial education, a $10,000 innovation grant to Aspire. And what they are going to do with that is develop a program of one-on-one coaching for returning citizens as they explore and put their plans together to start their own businesses. We think this is when one-on-one coaching can be at its most valuable application. We're proud to be a part of this. We congratulate all of you. Keep moving forward, keep pressing, and keep working hard to make programs like this work. So it couldn't work without our contributing sponsor, Bank of America Charitable Foundation. And I'd like to introduce Tamara Gifford just to say a few words because none of this would be possible without Bank of America.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. It's so great to be here. I love the energy in the room. The U.S. Conference of Mayors and its financial literacy program, DollarWise, have been funded through the Bank of America Charitable Foundation since 2004. During this time, a total of 65 cities have been awarded DollarWise grants, either through innoVAYtion or summer youth grants. We're so excited that DollarWise is supporting Aspire in its efforts to prepare and assist returning citizens in the development of their own new businesses. We all look forward to seeing the results from this new effort and applying the lessons learned in new programs across the country. So thank you for your partnership. Your work is tremendously important and meaningful. We're happy to support it.
Great, thank you. So with that, we would like to present Deputy Mayor Snowden and the Aspire program. Here, get in here.
Come on over here. Brian, you took it over
With
here.
this plaque. The check's already been mailed. We like that.
Awesome. I'm gonna get back to the mic. So, in keeping with the spirit of financial success that this month is helping to create, I want to bring up Jim Chung, who is the Associate Vice President for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at George Washington University, to continue to provide us with some additional announcements. Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, Deputy Mayor Kenner, and thank you to Mayor Bowser for your continued support of the DC Tech and entrepreneurship community. For 7 years, the GW's Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship has aided in the acceleration of venture creation by GW students, researchers, faculty, alumni, and the greater Washington, D.C. community. I'd like to announce several programs and initiatives in particular. Through the GW New Venture Competition, we have mentored more than 250 teams and provided more than $1.2 million in funding and in-kind support. More than 40% of our finalists are still in business or have been acquired, which I would say is a pretty good success rate and maybe comparable to some venture capital firms. So some DC-based companies that we have mentored and supported include Quorum Analytics, Social Driver, and Capital Kombucha. You'll see Capital Kombucha in Whole Foods and Sweet Green if you go. And I'll introduce you to this year's winner in a second, but I want to talk about another program that we have, we've done originally with the Washington, D.C. Economic Partnership called the Accelerate DC Venture Mentoring Service, which we will be bringing into GW. And through Accelerate DC, more than 50 local startups were supported, including local powerhouse Fiscal Note, which you may have heard of. And more than 50% of our mentees were women or minority founders. And we plan to continue the good work of the Washington, D.C. Economic Partnership at GW. Third, I'm happy to announce that the GW Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship has just been awarded an Innovation Corps site grant from the National Science Foundation for $500,000 over 5 years to support science and engineering-based startups coming out of GW. Over the next 5 years, our target is for the NSF I-Corps grant to support 150 GW research teams to get their inventions into real-world use, providing a robust new source of high-tech startups into the Washington, D.C. ecosystem. So finally, a few important inclusive innovation initiatives that I wanted to call out that we're working with at GW. We have a new pilot program that we've done for veterans around the I-Corps. We've been working with the SBA's Office of Veterans Business Development, the Small Business Development Centers, and local veterans entrepreneurship organizations like Eastern Foundry, Capital Post, and Bunker Labs. For women's entrepreneurship, so you heard DC is the best place for that in the country. We have partnered with groups like Hera Hub, Springboard Enterprises, the Women's Entrepreneurship Leadership Initiative, and the Hot Mamas Project. So we look forward to a continued partnership with the City of Washington, D.C., the Executive Office of the Mayor, and the Deputy Mayor's Office of Planning and Economic Development. Now it's my honor to welcome this year's winner of the GW New Venture Competition, Urgent Wellness. They seek to improve healthcare outcomes and lower healthcare costs for vulnerable populations by placing its medical care facilities in homeless shelters and public housing throughout Washington, D.C. And this is the team right here, and if I could ask them to come up and say a couple of words.
Thank you. 40,000 people in Washington, D.C. predominantly get their care from emergency rooms, even though they have health care insurance. And this results in health disparities and poor health outcomes because ERs don't provide and can't provide preventive care and chronic disease management. In Ward 8, an African-American man has a 15-year lower life expectancy than someone in this ward. We want to change that by designing health care to meet the needs of vulnerable populations. So urgent wellness is going to put minute clinic-like facilities in homeless shelters and housing projects. They're going to be staffed by community health workers trained from the community. They're going to have acute care telemedicine equipment so they can get connection very conveniently to health care for people when they need it. And they'll have tools to support preventive care and chronic disease management, and importantly, create relationships with people to help them get the care that they need. So currently, we have a health insurer that we're working with who's interested in supporting urgent wellness, and we're looking for investors to get this project off the ground and improve the health of residents of DC.
Wonderful, wonderful. I want to invite one more person up here to speak, Archana Vemuapalli, who is the city's Chief Technology Officer, to talk a little bit about our new open data policy, which is very exciting for the District of Columbia. Archana, come on up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kenner. And can I tell you how excited I am to see all of you? One, because you're all here for innoMAYtion, but what better way to celebrate innovation when you have access to data and when you have an environment where you encourage transparency and accountability. This government has really pushed hard to make sure that we have a balanced approach to how we treat information. And I can't thank enough all of you that participated in the data efforts. This is not something that the district government wrote on its own. Whether it's the Sunlight Foundation, whether it's the Open Government Advisory Group, and all of the folks that looked at it, and the over 200 plus comments and feedback that we got online on drafts.dc.gov. This is because of all of you that we built this great policy, and the mayor is going to be up here in a little bit to talk at length about it. But I would encourage all of you to go look at it because that really is going to push the boundaries in what we do. I want to make a quick shout out for two people on my team that really worked extremely hard on this. Where is Barney Krukoff? Barney's our Chief Data Officer, and can I tell you, please, that is the best Chief Data Officer you can get. He worked tirelessly with everyone and collaborated extensively. Thank you, Barney. And then the other person is Mike Rupert, who's our Communications Director. And while you think, what does communications have to do with data? Everything. He has been the driving force of making sure that everything and all the input and feedback came together. So I can't thank you guys enough. The second part of what I wanted to just acknowledge really quickly is how we're really defining a smarter DC. So when it comes to having a data policy that's comprehensive, when it comes to building an infrastructure that's sustainable, that can only happen when we build a smarter DC, when we collectively come together. And I could not thank enough both Deputy Mayor Kenner and Deputy Mayor Snowden and all the other deputy mayors who've really helped and pushed the idea that government has to work together. Because as a resident, we don't really care about agencies and departments, we just want work to get done. And it really helps when you have leadership like this to push that forward. And the mayor has been a huge supporter of that, but it can't get done. They're the workhorses, they get all the work done. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you for the opportunity for being here.
Thank you, Archana, very much. I'm going to invite Courtney Snowden back up just for a few additional words as we continue to talk about all the great things that are happening here in the month of May for innoMAYtion.
So I guess we have a lot more fun to talk about. And I thought it might be a good time, since you heard a little bit from the U.S. Conference of Mayors of how important and groundbreaking the work we are doing is. Now, come on, friends. There's a diva up here. One diva, one mic. All right, we'll get them. So we are incredibly excited that the U.S. Conference of Mayors continues to invest in the work that our city is doing, particularly as it relates to returning citizens. And I thought it might be appropriate to talk a little bit about how Aspire to Entrepreneurship was born. As many of you know, many of the deputy mayors traverse the city, speaking to community groups and commissions and organizations. And we do so with an eye toward hearing from the community about their needs. And what we've heard over and over and over again is that residents of the District of Columbia want us investing in them and creating innovative and creative programs that will support them in their efforts to do well and to sustain themselves on the pathway to the middle class. And so last year, I was attending a Returning Citizens Commission meeting, and a gentleman stood up in the room. We were the same age, and he said, Deputy Mayor, I've heard you talk about all these great programs. I've heard you talk about how you're trying to get people back to work. I've heard you talk about how you're growing small business. And let me tell you a little bit about myself. I spent 16 years in prison, he said. Okay. I spent 16 years in prison, and I did everything I was supposed to. I got my high school diploma. I got my GED, I got my associate's degree, I got every single certification one could get. I can build a house with my own 2 hands, and I can't get a job. And I said to him, brother, you need to stop looking for a job. You need to start your own business. And it's literally how Aspire to Entrepreneurship was born. And so what we're really excited about is that we were able to bring resources together across government. CSOSA, the Department of Employment Services, the Department of Small and Local Business Development. Charles, where are you? Help me with the other partners. Lots of other people came together to make it happen, and we had our first cohort that had 25 participants in it, and you'll hear from one of those participants this evening. We just recently started the next cohort, but here's what we've learned. One, that returning citizens are eager to start their own businesses, but not just for themselves, not just to be able to sustain their families, but to create opportunities for the folks that they serve time with, to create opportunities for others like them who have high barriers to employment. And so we've been incredibly excited about what this partnership and this pilot program has started, and we'll be really excited to expand it. Now I'm going to invite Melissa Bradley to come up here, because Melissa is going to talk about the partnership between Aspire and Project 500 and the importance of Project 500 and the great work she's been doing at Georgetown University. Please welcome Melissa Bradley up here.
I apologize. I was trying to support Honey Bunny in the back. So I'm thrilled to be here, and literally a year ago at the Anacostia Arts Center, the mayor stood up and announced Project 500. And I want to, is anybody from Project 500 in the house? Okay, y'all ain't paying attention in the back, but that's okay. The whole point of the program is to provide services that most other communities have at their disposal. I have the privilege to be a professor, and so we are bringing resources from the university to the community. All of our trainings happen at DMGO's office on Shannon Place, and the idea is to provide training so that people can scale their businesses, to work on policy and make recommendations to make life easier to run a business in the city, and then to organize capital products. So we're pleased to be able to then partner with other organizations, because there's no competition, right? There's enough to go around for everyone. But to recognize that each of us has specific value. Aspire is there to help bridge that gap when you step back into your community. Project 500 is there to help scale your business. And the idea is that the rest of the markets will work for themselves to actually help you be successful. This summer, we're going to kick off an accelerator, and we took on a challenge of, can you find any black businesses in the city that are making over $1 million? We found 20. And we hope to find a whole lot more. But the idea is now, how do we get them from 1 million to 5 million? How do we get people from 100,000 to 1 million? Because this is not just about entrepreneurship, but it's about asset development for the owners and their families. It's about job creation and economic security. And most of all, is making sure that DC represents all that have been here and all that are coming, so that we can all have economic prosperity. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lorenzo Stewart. I am a proud resident of the Ward 2, small business owner here in the district. I am excited to join you for the kickoff of the 3rd annual innoMAYtion, a month-long initiative showcasing local innovators and entrepreneurs who are making DC a global model and exclusive innovation. Tonight, it is my honor to introduce the mayor of our nation's capital. Mayor Muriel Bowser. One of Mayor Bowser's pledges when she was elected was to create pathways to the middle class for district residents. I am here this evening as living proof of the fulfillment of that promise. I own my own business, employing 4 other DC residents, and I am, thank you. And I am on the path of the middle class because of Mayor Bowser's leadership in supporting the Aspire to Entrepreneurship program and opportunity for returning citizens and others in our city. Without the support of my family, community-based organizations like Changing Perceptions, the City First Bank, which gave me a loan to get my business started, and the support of the Mayor Bowser's administration in creating the infrastructure required to put me and many others like me in a position to succeed as entrepreneurs, I wouldn't be standing here today as a small business owner and with the ability to provide jobs for other district residents. Mayor Bowser, thank you for the opportunity you have given me and so many others. I know you have a great team that transports you to meetings and events throughout the district, but now, as a registered certified business enterprise, if you ever need to travel with a group, it would be my honor for my company, Val Transportation, to transport you and your team. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is my privilege to bring to the podium a fearless woman fighting for all 8 wards, a leader who is building pathways to the middle class for all district residents, and the winner of the United States Conference of Mayors Award for the Aspire to Entrepreneurship program, our mayor, Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Thank you. Everybody, let's give Lorenzo a big round of applause. Give him a big round of applause, and I'm going to be needing a lot of vans real soon, so chew on that one. Chew on that one. In all 8 wards, how about that? So I want to welcome everybody to innoMAYtion. Say it with me. innoMAYtion. So that means for the month of May, we're talking about innovation across the District of Columbia, in the government, in the private sector, in transportation, in human services programs, in a lot of ways. At the IN3 Incubator on Georgia Avenue, the first inclusive tech hub. And we are just so happy to see all of you here. I want to recognize members of my great team, the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, Brian Kenner, the Deputy Mayor for Greater Economic Opportunity, Courtney Snowden. My CTO is here, Achana Vimalapalli. Please come up. Come up, Achana. And all the members of the Bowser administration, give a wave. We appreciate you. We thank you for your service. And we are excited to kick off innoMAYtion 2017. What's interesting, and it seems like yesterday to me, but we are starting to do things for the 3rd time. We had the 3rd State of the District address. I introduced my 3rd balanced budget to the people of the District of Columbia, and it is our 3rd innoMAYtion. And so we focus this month on how we're supporting tech and how we are preparing our city for the 900 and so people that move here, so that the 680,000 of us who are already here continue to have a great quality of life. We know that in last quarter of 2016 was the single best fiscal quarter in the history of the District of Columbia. We know that we led the region in private sector job growth. more than the public sector. You know, sometimes people just think of us as the Congress who fights everybody, but the truth is we're growing private sector jobs, and it's because of people just like you. And we know that tech is growing and has grown in our city somewhat organically. And in our administration, we decided that we had to be more intentional about creating the environment where we would attract tech, grow tech, and attract talent to come to our city and capital to come to our city. So we are fostering this spirit of innovation in all that we do. Now, in economic development, people oftentimes just think of the bricks and mortar. And we do that too, don't we, Brian? We do a lot of bricks and mortar and affordable housing, and we're investing in a sports capital. We're going to have a, well, you have to wait to see what we're going to do here. I'm not going to tell you. But you're going to find out real soon what's going to happen here. And just a few weeks ago, we launched IN3, our first ever tech and innovation lab that supports underrepresented entrepreneurs. In the last year, DMGO, Deputy Mayor Snowden and her team helped 340 businesses grow in size and revenue with Project 500. We announced an open data initiative to make the city one of the most transparent anywhere in the country, and we unveiled a very comprehensive plan called Pathways to Inclusion. And this report is really our guidebook to making sure we can capture what I call our kind of tech destiny. We are going to be, this is our niche, the hub for inclusive tech all across the United States of America. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about DC Inclusive Innovation Programs and open data. We know that one of the biggest barriers to starting a business is getting access to capital and overcoming unexpected hurdles on your path to growth. But getting the tools needed to succeed can be especially challenging for women, people of color, veterans, as well as our business owners east of the Anacostia River. So today, I'm very proud to announce the DC Inclusive Innovation Program. And this program will have two main objectives. Number one, grow the private sector economy by spurring business activity in 6 important areas. The impact economy, smart cities and civic solutions, hospitality innovation, professional services innovation, data science and management, and security technology. Number two, these programs will support underrepresented entrepreneurs and those facing disproportionate barriers to accessing capital. And so we will officially roll out these programs during this month, so please stay tuned for more details. Another way we are continuing to secure our top spot as an innovation leader is making sure our government is more transparent. Who knows, the phrase sexy data? Anybody? And our goal is to be the sexiest. That's our goal. And I know Achana's going to help and work with DMPED to make sure that we're getting our data out. Already you can find out more about our affordable housing pipeline and how we're delivering on those promises. We want you to know more about how people use transportation across the District of Columbia, for example. And we certainly want you to be able to access opportunities to be able to work and do business with the District of Columbia. So we are, after a year of preparation, we've created one of the most progressive and comprehensive data policies in the nation. We are committing to serving and delivering even more data, improving the quality and lowering the price, enhancing collaboration between public agencies and our partner organizations, and we want to be able to strengthen economic development, social services, public safety, and our education goals. So let me thank all of our civic partners, the Sunlight Foundation, Hope You're Here, Code for DC, and the great members of our Open Government Advisory Committee. So with this policy, we will continue to be at the forefront. We know that we have a lot of potential in this city. As fast as we've grown, there's really so much more work to do. And when I think about how we are going to grow our private sector, when I think about all the talent and ideas that are in our city, I know that we will continue to be prosperous. And the solutions that we will come up with will help us be prosperous for more Washingtonians. Lorenzo's story doesn't have to be unique. Lorenzo came to an event. He listened to the deputy mayor. He joined a program. He started a business. He got a second chance. And now he will put himself on the pathway to the middle class and sharing in this prosperity of our great city. Let's continue to innovate.